Next person is Colonel Phil Soriano. Now this man came all the way from Pennsylvania just to be here with us. I'm so proud of this guy. His wife, needs help. And he came and he's leaving real soon. He came in and he's going. So again, please look at his background. He resigned near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Colonel Soriano.
If I'm speaking too loudly, please let me know if I'm not speaking loud enough. Raise your right hand. First of all, when I was notified about 3 weeks ago that I was selected to receive an outstanding alumni award, I grappled with myself about coming over. It's a long distance, and my wife is not well. It's a full-time caregiver. But my wife encouraged me to come. She says, "You got to go because it's a big deal." And someone else who heard about this said, "What's the big deal about a high school award?" And I said, "It's a big deal because when you meet a Hawaiian for the first time, guess what they ask you? What high school did you graduate from?" Is that correct? So that's why it's a big deal. It's a big deal for me. I left last night, I arrived last night, and I'm leaving tonight. And if I look bleary-eyed, baggy-eyed, and a hound dog look, it's because but Mr. President, Principal Carmilla, distinguished guests, Farrington alumni, one and all, and my 1951 classmates, thank you very much for this award. I will cherish this for a long time. And after 62 years since we graduated, I think it was high time that somebody from the class of 1951 received something. First and foremost, though, I'd like to thank my parents, Felisa and Phil Soriano, for what I became and what I am today. My mother was a maid for officers at Schofield Barracks in the 1930s and later bussed tables at the PX cafeteria until overwork and exhaustion put her in the Yagi home for 6 months. She later bussed tables at Fort Shafter cafeteria, never letting anyone know that she had a son in the Army. And she worked as a cashier until she retired. My father was a soldier, a low-grade enlisted soldier, just 2 stripes. If they had not been for the war, it would have been a book private, what we call slick sleeve. Our whole family was janitors at St. Andrew's Cathedral. And imagine a 12-year-old having to rake that whole place and cleaning and mopping the buildings. I never got involved in sports because we didn't have the time. I also want to thank my wife of 55 years, the former Tanya Machado, 1954 Marino. Her auntie is Lina Machado for the old-timers here. I thank her for enhancing my career by her steadfast support and for the time she was left to fend for herself while I was gone for a year each time in Vietnam and Iran. And the several household moves she had to make by herself, and all the times I was in the field in maneuvers. Their sacrifices made it possible for me to realize my share of the American dream. Secondly, I accept this award on behalf and in recognition of my 1951 classmates. These 80-year-olds and soon-to-be 80-year-old seasoned seniors are among my classmates. I want to dedicate it to those who couldn't be here, and for those who have gone to meet their maker, especially Ben Molina and George Elephant Matthews, who made the supreme sacrifice in the Korean War. I'd like my class to stand up and be recognized, if you can stand up. Table number 13 and table number 20. Long overdue deserve sister is just a year younger than I, but she's 10 years younger, at least today. Next, I'd like to, my selection, I believe, was based on my military accomplishments. So I accept this award particularly in behalf of all of the Farrington military war veterans, their widows, and those federal civilians who served in war zones. Will all veterans please stand up right now and be recognized by a grateful alumni and nation? All the veterans. Just six, there are 6 at my table alone. Instead, stand up. Just stay up. Albert Cuervo here was a veteran. Okay, all of you who served with me in Vietnam, raise your right arm. I see quite a few. Welcome home, brothers. Finally. You know, when I came back to pick up my family from Daly City, I was spat on. I couldn't wear my uniform because to avoid provoking anybody. And we were never welcome home. Welcome home, brothers. Let's just take a few minutes more, okay? Okay. Enter to learn, go forth to serve, as you know, is our school motto. We veterans took our motto literally and extended it to say, enter to learn, go forth to serve your country. Go forth to serve your country. I want to express my appreciation to the selection board for honoring me, a military veteran, alongside judges, doctors, educators, CEOs, and other accomplished Farrington High School graduates who have received the Outstanding Alumni Award. Thanks to Al Torco, who also served in Vietnam, and Rizalina Saliato. Raise your hand, Sally. Okay, right there. Okay. For among the nations, they talked about veterans, and I want to thank them for advancing the cause of Farrington military veterans, whom I proudly represent today. I don't know what was discussed at this board meeting, but I think the entire board gained an appreciation for all our military veterans who were and are among the nation's first responders. Before the term first responder became a precise description of those who react swiftly in time of strife. Most everyone knows what a doctor is, a lawyer, an educator, a judge, a CEO. You know that pretty well because you deal with them. But very few people know what a colonel, quote unquote, colonel is. So, if I may, I'd like to explain what a colonel is and what he does. Some people spell it K-E-R-N-E-L, you know, colonel. In fact, when I ask, what does a colonel do, I try to deflect what I do so that I can change the subject. And I say, well, I'm a pilot. Oh, yes, when they tell me to pile things in that corner, I pile things in that corner. When they tell me to pile things like that, then I change the subject so that I'm not speaking about myself, but today I will. I really owe everyone a brief description of what a full colonel does. The equivalent of an eagle in the Navy is called a captain. Only 20%, only 20 of every 100 eligibles and qualified officers are selected for a full colonel or a captain's rank. That's 20% selection rate. A select few are 5%ers, meaning they were promoted ahead of 95% of their contemporaries. What does a colonel do? To put it in very simplistic terms, a full colonel does basically 3 things, and that rank with many nuances in each category. A colonel could be in charge of up to 3,000, perhaps more men. He's their commanding officer, the troop commander. A colonel could be responsible for everything on a post, such as Fort Shafter and and Schofield Barracks. And on a Navy carrier, the equivalent is in command of that entire aircraft carrier for about 12,000 people. And that's the magnitude of the job. And then the third group are managers. They're executive managers. Colonels who are PhD professors, research and development project officers, executive logisticians, and executive administrators. They possess the skills in these 3 categories, honed over 20 years to a high degree of excellence and increased difficulty and span of control from the year they entered the service as shaved tail, wet behind the ears, second lieutenants or ensigns. Virtually every colonel has performed these 3 categories of jobs during his or her career. My last assignment before retiring was Director of Human Resources for the Army Rapid Deployment Force, mostly paratroopers. 18th Airborne Corps for over 150,000 troops and their families. That was my job. I want to thank my teachers, in addition to my ROTC instructors, who exposed me to leadership positions and situations. I don't believe leaders are born. They become leaders by not holding leadership positions, by not only holding leadership positions early in life, but also by emulating other leaders, retaining the best, most effective practices, and discarding the worst. We start by emulating our God, who was the first to lead by example, a trait found in the best leaders. I emulated the leadership traits and skills of classmates who are in leadership positions, such as George Hayakawa. George, stand up. Where's George? George, stand up. You might have to stand on the chair, but stand up. George Hayakawa was a 1951 student body president. He showed me that one doesn't have to be a rah-rah, in-your-face leader to be effective. He also taught me that it doesn't take much more to be a leader and a nice person. Thank you, George. Frank Ariz, a nice hand for George, deserved. Frank Ariz, our ROTC battalion commander, and our senior class president, Francis Rania, are role models, worthy role models as well. Riza Villa, stand up, Riza. Riza Villa.
Another one.
Not for real now. That's the problem. Our classmate, who was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, is my University of Hawaii fraternity brother, godfather to our eldest, a West Point graduate, proves to me that he didn't have to go to bars, carouse with other soldiers, and follow the herd to be a tough, gung-ho soldier. And it was okay to attend church every Sunday without fail, and still be ready to fight in the trenches if he had to. That's leadership by example, which I tried to emulate throughout my military career and even today. I said earlier that the military is one of the first ever responders in America. It harks back to the Minutemen, Paul Revere, and George Washington's ragged Continental Army. I want to add one more segment of our society I consider first responders of the highest order. Our teachers and our coaches, athletic coaches, and all who are associated with education. I believe they, on balance, have responded well to the academic and moral needs of our precious Hawaii youth, with little fanfare and accolades. I'm talking about folks like two of my classmates, retired teachers Mildred Timori Oshiro and Joyce Yanagita Miyasato. Please stand and be recognized. Melody, come on, good job. Hey, by the way, have you ever seen a better looking of 80-year-olds? In all due respect to the classes older than we are. When I was a junior Olympic boys volleyball coach and a swimming coach, age group, athletes were asked to rank the people in their lives who influenced them most after their own parents. Guess who? Teachers and athletic coaches. A lot of you who were and are still coaches and teachers of our precious youth, please stand up and be recognized. All you guys here, all of the teachers, all of the coaches, please stand up and be recognized. All the educators, please stand up. You're one, this one next. Some nice hand, because we really appreciate what they did. They're the ones who guided us and molded us. And before I leave, I have one story. Pete Dawkins, class of 1951, my class, because I spent 4 years as an enlisted man right after the graduate from 1951. Pete Dawkins was an All-American halfback. He was the captain of the Corps of Cadets at West Point. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, and he was a Rhodes Scholar. The other one was Captain Roger Donnan, the Green Beret Medal of Honor winner. After they were selected for promotion twice in a row, surpassing thousands of officers in jumping 2 year groups ahead of everybody else. My boss came up to me finding out that I was part of that distinction and asked, he says, West Pointer, huh? I said, no sir, University of Hawaii. Rolled his eyes. Well then, Puno. He was stationed at Fort Shafter, so he knows. Puno. I said, no. Iolani? No. St. Louis? I said, no. Farrington. And then before that, Kalakaua. The biggest wooden structure west of the Mississippi River until it burned down. True. And it had a fence about 8 feet tall on the outside, I said. Not to keep the people out, but to keep us in. And so that's my story about that. It was people, I always, you know, that was my badge of honor, my Kalihi badge of honor, the fact that I'm a Kalihi boy. And I graduated from Farrington and Kalakaua. And so in parting, I want to leave this one thought. It's a proverb, a Filipino proverb by Phil Soriano. It's a Chinese proverb, right? Here's a proverb that's very serious for the teachers and coaches, because I was a coach. A student's life is like a piece of paper on which every teacher and coach leaves an indelible mark. It's profound. A student's life is like a piece of paper on which every teacher and coach leaves an indelible mark. Thank you very much. Mahalo and go